I know when I was first starting off, um, my mentor would be like, okay, so you need to think about your boundaries. And again, I really didn't know what that meant. Now as I've went through the journey, I've been around other entrepreneurs, it's very clear what boundaries are. But as I was first starting and just coming from a 9 to 5, going into working for myself, and people are like, make sure you stick with your boundaries, I really didn't know what that meant. So,
Well, to me, when like you coming from corporate America, our boundaries was already set, right? So you would get points taken off if you're late, and you had lunch at such and such about time. So their boundaries was already set. And like you, I didn't know how to convert over. And then as my business began to grow, and as I, learned more and more terms in this entrepreneur world, I learned that boundaries are very, very important. The main boundary that I have learned and try to stick with is your hours. Being a virtual assistant, you can work when you need to. As long as you hit your deadlines, long as everything is in order for you and your client, stick to your hours that you both establish during your onboarding process. I think that is very important. That way, the communication stays open. If I work from 9 to 4 in my business, then any clients or team members that I have knows after 4 p.m., Shantae is not going to respond to most likely the following morning unless she has the time. And that also goes with your clients. If you already have a set schedule and you already have your tasks that you have scheduled into your personal calendar for the week, and a client might pop up and be like, oh, we have such and such going on. You have to set your boundaries so that you don't get overwhelmed or take on extra work when you possibly don't have the time. You know what I mean? So to me, that's where boundaries, it starts in the beginning on your onboarding process when you bring your client into your business and you guys collaborate together.
set your boundaries to whatever fits your lifestyle, and putting the limits on how you want to run things. So, I do think it's very important for you to know exactly how you want to run things, or what fits for you as a person, what it is that you treasure, and so forth. Because guess what? The right people will find you, and they will be able to mesh with exactly how it is you want to run your business. And the ones that maybe need that 9 to 5, like if someone came up to me and they said, hey, I need a virtual assistant available from 10 to 2 Monday through Friday, I wouldn't even apply for that job, or I would not even um, say that I was available. But I might would say, hey, I know of somebody, or, or I can recommend X, Y, and Z, but I would already know that that person would not be for me. So the more you can be honest with yourself and about your foundation and why you're doing certain things that you're doing, I think the easier it will be for you to get those boundaries and know what works for you. And the truer you can be, the happier you will be in your business.
Another boundary I wanted to talk about was the expectations of your client. What I am learning is that onboarding chat, your kickoff call, or whichever you choose to call it, is very important for you to establish your boundaries with your client. What exactly do you need from your client for your project to start? What exactly does your client need from you as far as hours, as far as material, as far as time frame in which particular projects will be completed? I think that is very, very important because you don't want to get miscommunication. You don't want to, start a project, but you don't have everything that you need to complete it. It will confuse you, and then it will frustrate your client. And then now your client experience is not what you initially thought it was. So establish your expectations with your client up front. That way the relationship just stays smooth. You don't have to deal with all of the confusion, because it can get confusing very quickly if those boundaries are not set.
The discovery call is when for me, the discovery call is when they're still a potential client. Your kickoff call is when they are now a client. The difference is they sign the contract and they have paid the invoice. So for me, in that discovery call, that's when I put like all the expectations of what you can expect by working with me. So if you do have certain hours, you want to make sure you put them in there. You want to make sure they know there. You want to make sure that they're aware of, even expectations on payment, when they can expect the next invoice, how they should be paid. And a lot of people get uncomfortable with that, but I'm going to be honest, it can get confusing, especially if you have a client that maybe either has one, more of an employee mindset, or two, you have a client that has maybe several different freelancers and they just put them all in one group. Now, I've had several clients in both of those settings, so make sure that you tell them how you run your business and how you run the expectations of payment. That's gonna if you're not comfortable with having those conversations up front, I'm gonna just tell you all that's gonna happen is there will be miscommunication, and then you're gonna have to be real uncomfortable because at this point you done already put in services, and for whatever reason there's a misunderstanding of how that's gonna roll. Many business owners are still not 100% comfortable or aware of the process of dealing with a virtual assistant too, and you can also let them know clear boundaries, then that a lot of times comforts a lot of people. It does. They're like, okay, well, I know she's got this because she says she's going to use the tool that's needed, this, and this, and so forth. When you find that they are comforted in the expectations, you can then make recommendations such as, well, I really recommend that you have your own project management tool. It's going to be easier for us to communicate and for you to see exactly where I'm at on a project. You can see if it's in progress or if it's needed, blah, blah, blah. And then you can recommend that. But when you recommend it, you'd be like, well, I'd be more than happy. The tool itself, there is a free version, but I will be charging XYZ if I actually need to implement that software.
Respect your own time. Your time is just as important as your client. That is very important. Like, I'm a mom, and I know Lovely is a mom too. So I also have to give time to my child. Then I have to give time to my family. And then I have to give time to my friends. So being an entrepreneur is not like your 9 to 5. You work 24/7. Okay. So you're always thinking about your business. You're always trying to implement something in your business. You're always thinking about strategies. You're always trying to think about funnels. You have to respect your time as a human being. You are not just a CEO. You are not just a mom. You are not just a sibling. You have to respect your time so that you can be mentally and emotionally prepared and ready to tackle whatever situation you have in your business. And I know they say that entrepreneurs work so hard. Yeah, we do, because you have to think of everything all day long, but you have to have self care. That's just as important as you having self care for your clients and the work that you are doing for them, but you have to be mentally and emotionally prepared. And the only way that you're going to be able to do that is you have to carve out time for yourself. I just started yoga, I would say a month ago. And I think since I've became an entrepreneur, that is one of the best things that I have done for me. I can regroup every single Saturday for an hour where I'm just meditating and I'm just thinking about, okay, what I got to do. Or I just shut my brain down. And like I'm forced to shut my brain down because I'm in yoga class. And it's a great thing. So once I come out of yoga, I feel refreshed. And then the next day is Sunday. So I'll just prepare for my upcoming week. So it's very, very important for you to respect your time. Keep yourself accountable for having time to yourself. Self love, you know? Some of your boundaries can be adjusted if it's for the better of your business and for the experience for your clients. So if my hours are from 9 to 4, however, one of my clients has something, an emergency, say there's a product that needs to go out a little bit sooner than the normal time you established, then that's fine, you know. But if you stick to your boundaries and not alter it, it could cause some problems. But in certain situations, I do think you can be laxed on your boundaries, long as you and your client know the foundation is still there, and this is just a one-off chance.
I will say I don't like to really give any clients just an absolute no. So I usually always have a way to give options. I don't like the idea, if your answer is no, I feel like as a professional, you should be able to have other options and be able to present those because people love options. Nobody likes just to be told no. So if you're able to say, no, I'm not able to do it at XYZ time, but what I can do is option one or option two. And then that way they can also see that while you're sticking with your boundaries, you're still willing to, you still care about their business and you're still really willing to meet them halfway. And I think that's an important skill that people that will help your business really flourish if you're able to do that. When you're talking about boundaries, just know that it doesn't have to be black and white. Your boundary can still be, black, but there's usually always gray area. So there are usually other options you can throw in there. But ultimately, when it's about sticking to your boundaries, you want to stick to your boundaries because if you start doing it too much, you will definitely see that this is not the business that you really wanted to create in the first place. And then you're going to get burnt out and you're going to get frustrated. And then, like, many people give up on their business. And quite honestly, I think a lot of it is because they don't stick to their boundaries. One thing I've learned from my mentor, too, is that one person's emergency does not mean it's any urgency for you. This definitely goes back to boundaries, and you have to understand that sometimes people maybe have done some poor planning or things just happen because sometimes life just happens. That happens to all of us. But if you start seeing that happen too often, and they're just like expecting you to kind of drop it because it's very emergency, they need it fixed right now. That alone is an uncomfortable situation, right? Because you know that they are leaning on you and you want to be a great virtual assistant or service professional and give them what they want. But in all reality is their emergency does not have to constitute as your urgency. You may have other things planned. So if it's like, hey, I need you to drop this, or, hopefully they will ask in a more respectful way anyway. But just know that because people do have things that happen. They have life happens, emergency happens, it could be poor planning, and they're depending on you. And that alone is an uncomfortable situation. But do not feel like because it is an emergency for them that you have to stop what you're doing and do what you got to do for that.